The agenda is listed. So again, there will be 4 talks total all around the area of large language models. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. Hey, Jared.
Hello, hello. How's it going?
We're doing great. Yeah, we got some active attendees here. And Jared mentioned that he is open to taking questions during his talk, after his talk, and I'll just be here to kind of prompt Jared for any questions that are coming in.
Yeah. Feel free to throw some questions in the chat, or if you're watching this after the fact, you can always DM me on Twitter or email or something like that. And I have to say, Amber, I'm a little disappointed about the virtual background because I cleaned up my whole background before this, and I did it for no reason, I guess, but that's okay.
You could send a screenshot, Jared. Like we have no doubt. All right, perfect. Well,
Cool.
whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let me share my screen here. All right. So yeah,
Nice.
my name is Jared. We can see it. We're
Yeah,
good.
we can see it, and I'm
All
already
right.
excited. It passes the vibe check.
I used Tome also, by the way, before I start this product to make AI slides for the first time. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, my name is Jared Zoneraich. I am the founder of PromptLayer, and this is a talk called Vibe Space Prompt Engineering. So I think this might either be controversial to the other talks we're giving or complementary. I think we'll see how it goes. We'll see how we decide. Hopefully maybe I'll convince everybody not to read the O'Reilly books you guys are giving out and not
Ooh,
to
I
care too
love
much
it.
about evals. And I think actually there's a whole section before that, which is the vibe-based prompt engineering. So yeah, let's dive in. Yeah, maybe a little about me. We got the hat, wearing the prompt engineer hat. This is our little prompt layer hat we give out. So find us if you're in New York City. We have an office here. We run some events. Come by and maybe you'll get a hat. But yeah, prompt layer. We're a small team here in New York. The product's been out for almost exactly 1 year now. And we call ourselves a platform for prompt engineering. So what that means, we'll get into in a second, but if you're building LLM applications, if you're doing prompts, check us out, promptlayer.com, free to use, a lot of hackers on our product, a lot of teams on our product. And yeah, find me at I'm Jared Z on Twitter or X. I don't know if I should write X on the slides, but on whichever you
Yeah,
prefer there.
you don't have to. Fine.
I think it's a few years before it's a few, I don't know, or maybe months. I feel like people will switch to saying X, but maybe not yet.
Not yet.
Um, cool. So yeah, just to get started, maybe I'll just share a little bit about where I'm coming from. So like I said, we have this product called PromptLayer out, which is prompt engineering product. And we've taken, I guess, a very first principles approach to prompt engineering. And I think you'll be able to see it in this talk. To us, I guess our backgrounds, my co-founder and I, just to like set the scene. My co-founder is like a research guy, did a lot of like hardcore deep learning research before this, GPT-2 previous to that. I'm definitely less of a research guy. I consider myself a hacker. I like to build stuff. I like to not read the docs and just use print statements to debug. But I have, I guess, an MLOps background. So yeah, so given all these things, I think there's two ways you could go about prompt engineering and building platforms for it. The first way is saying, hey, we learned all these things in the ML world and all these machine learning things, and we've read all the O'Reilly books about it, and we know how to do machine learning. Let's apply those principles to language models. We've taken a separate approach because we've said, hey, doing prompting is just writing English. So what does that mean for the whole ecosystem? Does that mean we need to get a hardcore weights and biases for language models? Or does that mean maybe we can rethink these things from the ground up and I guess it's a little buzzwordy, but democratize prompt engineering and kind of who is doing the prompt engineering? How do we let the team prompt engineer, and how do we simplify these things from first principles rather than building off of the, I guess, academic and ML institutions? Like, for example, uh, you'll hear about evals a lot. And when OpenAI talks about evals, and Gemini talks about evals, and everyone's talking about how good their model is with these eval benchmarks, in my opinion, eval benchmarks don't mean much to you as the end user. Eval benchmarks are not that important. What they matter for is how good the model is, but you care about how good your application is and how good your prompt is. So that's one example here. So prompt layer, kind of, we have three major things of our product, which is kind of our prompt registry, which is a CMS for prompt templates. We have some evaluation as well, but less in the academic way and more in the iterative way. And then also logging and observability. So just seeing how people are using your product. But I guess this talk is not specifically about prompt layer, but it's about prompt engineering. So where are we with prompt engineering? I'd say this is a new field, first of all. Hasn't existed that long. You heard about prompt engineering as a term maybe a year, maybe two, maybe three is a stretch years ago. I think we'll call it the pre-ChatGPT world and the post-ChatGPT world. So post-ChatGPT, prompt engineering, like, people understood the power of GPT, and prompt engineering became, oh, is this going to be a career? Is this going to be a field? Many people say, is prompt engineering going to exist at all? When AGI comes, can it just write the prompts for you? To us, it boils down to prompt engineering, whether you're saying please or thank you to the AI or not, that's like maybe tweaks that exist today, but it boils down to you have a task that you need to solve and you need a good output. And regardless of the steps in between, you always need to start with a task. There's no AI who could figure out the task for you. There's no way to do that. So basically, that's stage one here, the idea. You always got to start with what you have to do. What type of AI are you putting in your product? Are you building your product with AI? What are you doing personally? So that's where prompt engineering came from to us. And I think prompt engineering, one more thing I'll say, it's a little bit of a buzzword, I'll admit. I think we steer into it. That's how I got the hats and everything, but it's a little bit of a buzzword. It doesn't have a very precise meaning. How we define it is prompt engineering is engineering everything that, maybe I won't use the word in the definition. Prompt engineering is kind of tweaking and tuning all the inputs to the model and system to get the output you want. So that means tweaking the prompt, the string prompt. That means tweaking which model you're running it on, what hyperparameters are sent to the model, what inputs, what's the chain, what's the like validations, everything there. So prompt engineering really is this process of going input to output. That's what I want to like impress from this talk. So then the second stage, we'll call it vibes for this. And this has become a term used a bit around the field, vibe-based prompt engineering. This stage is really getting it good, getting your prompt to work. And RAG I don't include in this field as well. It's really everything in this system. So vibes is how do I get my prompt? What do I change about it? Oh, the output's looking better. How do I make it even better? Kind of that iterative, really iterative process. Stage three is, all right, let's make it scalable. How do we actually not break our product when we update it? How do we build this for production teams? So I think like that distribution was wrong. I think this is the right distribution. The idea is very small. Just think switch back and forth, the idea is very small. You just start with something, you know what you're starting with. Vibes is a big chunk of it where you're just iterating and you're figuring it out and you don't quite know exactly what you want to do, but you're iterating through it and you're coding with print statements, let's call it. And then scalable systems is you're using the debugger, you're using Sentry, you're using Datadog, and you're figuring these things out and you're making a CI/CD pipeline and you're making sure these things work in prod and they don't regress. So these are the two big parts of prompt engineering. But I think if you look at Twitter, if you look at blog posts, no, people aren't really talking about the vibe section, but it is most of it. And a lot of teams, I will say, don't get to the scale, like don't get to the scaling part of this. If you're making a small one-off feature, you're never gonna need to make a CI/CD whole pipeline process for it. If you're making if you're using AI for like half marketing and saying, hey, we have this cool AI product, it kind of works. It only needs to kind of work. You don't need to make it work all the time. Yes, when we get into the really interesting problems, you do. And making it scalable is super important here, but that's not to discount the iterative step before that.
And Jared, we have
But
a
like,
question about
yeah,
essentially like AJ's asking, what are the engineering principles behind prompt engineering, for instance, as compared to software engineering?
yeah, that's a very interesting question. Um, I would say they're both very similar and both very different. Software engineering and prompt
Politician's
engineering.
answer.
A little Philadelphia lawyer. No, I think the similarities are, I guess it depends how you code, but the similarities are they are both based, and I'll talk about this a little later, but they're both based on the scientific method. They're both based on feedback loops, trying things, improving things, logical flows from input to output. Where they are different is software engineering is a complex set of technical instructions that are deterministic, and prompt engineering is building something on top of a non-deterministic system. So it's almost like software engineering. You know what's going on when you run your code, or at least you should, and in most systems, hopefully you do. Uh, Building on LLMs and prompt engineering, you should treat the LLM as a black box, in my opinion. And yeah, not if you're a researcher, not if you're working at OpenAI designing GPT-5, but if you are a practitioner building something on top of language models, treat it as a black box. Just write an input, check the output, as opposed to software where something's not going wrong, probably the 99% of the time, best to actually know why it's not going wrong. Were there any other questions? I can't see it on my screen now that I'm afraid to change anything.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
All right, all right, great. So yeah, I mean, that brings me to the next point, which is don't overfit too early. Because prompt engineering, we're building on these non-deterministic systems, you don't want to swap the vibes and the scalable. You don't want to swap stage 2 and stage 3 here. You don't want to create your idea and then build out this whole evaluation system and get ready for production because your prompt is not working yet, and you might have to change a lot of requirements for your problem. And what I'm saying, like, it might not sound too novel because this is just like how you problem solve in general, but it's, I think, even more important when you have a non-deterministic system like language models, and asterisk next to non-deterministic system because yeah, maybe it is actually deterministic if you go super low level, but we're talking just as a practitioner. So I guess to dive even deeper, every use case is different for prompt engineering. The use case means could change throughout the process. You can decide, hey, I want to summarize talks and give me a cheat sheet from a talk. Maybe I'm in school or something. Your first idea can be, I'm going to take the transcript of the talk and print out a summary. Maybe you find out that it's better to have 2 steps where you take the transcript, then bullet it, and then turn the bullets into a summary. Now those are 2 prompts you need to prompt engineer, and a whole system you have to, I guess, engineer. But though that changes it. Like if you had created metrics for this original prompt, you have to throw it out the door, throw it out the window. So I think that's one thing. I think another thing is subject matter expertise matters a lot in prompt engineering. And that's another difference, I think, between software engineering. For prompt engineering, the best person to prompt engineer is the person who knows if the output's correct or not. And that could be a doctor. That could be the PM on the team. It could be the engineer too. If you're building GitHub Copilot, you probably want an engineer checking if the prompts are correct. But everyone's different. Every use case is different. Every prompt is different. Don't overfit early is the main point here. And even further, there is no silver bullet here. And they basically, there is no, I mean, I could be proven wrong on this, I will say, but the way I see it today, you're not going to be able to, there's a lot of people trying to sell a one size fits all solution here, and a one size fits all, hey, just plug and play, this will test your prompt, this will let you make sure it's good. It's not the case. There's many different types of problems you can solve with language models. Some problems have ground truths where you know if the prompt output is correct or not. Some don't, where you maybe need to hire a team of people to tell you if the output is good. And to make matters even more interesting, what bias do those people have? Can the AI grade it? There's a lot of methods, and we've spent the last year talking to as many language model teams as we can, and hackers and practitioners, and nobody has everybody's use case and everybody's process has been a little bit different, and there has not been a generalized solution to prompt engineering, and I don't think there will be. I think it's kind of irreducible that everything boils down to you're doing a different task. And yeah, there's no silver bullet. Don't try to
And
look for it.
we have a few more questions kind of from this. And we'll save hands to the end because I found there is like the hand raising function. So we can save hands to the end, but if you have a quick question, you could put it in the chat. But Jared, we have, who was the first one? Satara asking, do you think we'll have a discipline like quality engineering to automate software functionality using test automation tools when we use prompt engineering? So like I guess like a quality control around that.
Maybe. I think
Thinking
my
ahead for
opinion on
sure.
this. Yeah, yeah. Uh, so I guess if I'm understanding this correctly, the question is about, is there going to be a discipline of just like QA on top of the outputs for language models, because it is so like it is a black box, and there definitely needs to be something there, whether it's going to be a whole group of people on your team or whether it's going to be the person who actually designed the task. That I think it'll vary company to company, but we feel very honestly like our mission at PromptLayer is to let the subject matter experts be the prompt engineers. And so we feel very strongly that the QA person needs to not always be the engineer. If you're building a product for law firms, you probably want some lawyers on your team to do the prompt engineering. You probably don't want people like me writing prompts to write legal bill. I don't know what I'm talking about, but hopefully that is helpful.
And then there was a clarifying question. So prompt engineering is about crafting prompts and framing inputs in a way that maximizes a model's response and effectiveness, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Crafting prompts
For
and
I would add,
inputs, yeah, to maximize the
sorry.
response. Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
rephrasing it. Yeah, I would agree. I think you'd agree. Yeah, I think that's a good, actually a really good way of putting it, like trying to maximize the model output.
yeah, and I would only add a few words to the end for one's use case. So I think maximizing output is very use case dependent, and for some things it could be, if you're writing a poem, what is the maximum poem? It's probably like something that reads very clearly, or if you're maybe explaining a math problem, it's a very different max function, or you have a different loss function there. And yeah, but pretty yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that definition.
Awesome. All right, you're good.
All right. All right. So let's continue on here. So then another thing I'd want to add is how long each step in this process takes. I think you can, let me just go back to that slide with the stages. You can start with the idea. You can do this vibe-based prompt engineering, this iteration. You're going to get 80% of the way there. And 80% of the way could be good enough for a lot of use cases. I think the real powerful use cases, it's not good enough for, but a lot of things you do, 80% might be good enough. And that's great because the process of going from 80% to 95, or I pulled these numbers out of nowhere, but the process from going from pretty good to this works at a production scale is a long process and is a big process and is a kind of a never ending process because there is models change, right? GPT is constantly changing. People complain about it. OpenAI claims sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. Um, Models change. The best newest model could be something different tomorrow that you're going to want to switch to. Users change. User behavior changes. If you're building, well, I'm using a slide deck app right now. Uh, if the like idioms around how you make slides changes and users want to make slides about different things, the user behavior is going to change. You might need to change your prompts around. The prompts itself change. Maybe you're fixing uh maybe you're fixing one thing like the rephrasing of the titles in the slides in your prompt, and that breaks the expanding the bullet points, or you're regressing on different things in your use case. So basically it's a it's like a never-ending process, like software engineering, where you can it's funny because from the outside you say, oh, why does Facebook have thousands of engineers? What are they doing? The Facebook app works for me. But it is this process of maintaining software and kind of keep getting those extra percentage points of accuracy or quality or whatever you want to call it. And this is the long process of prompt engineering. And this is when you need those systems and scalability. But you can get to 80% without that, is kind of my main point here. And then this is the thing I think we touched on earlier with the question, but to me, I like the core of prompt engineering is the scientific method, which I don't know, I didn't look at this diagram closely, but I think it's great. Yeah, it's just like creating your hypothesis, testing it out. Did the hypothesis work? No, trying it again. It's just trying and checking. And that's really like what I think prompt engineering is and what I think it should be. I think not everyone approaches it this way, and your mileage may vary. Maybe you have a better way than I do, but it's the scientific method, and it's write something in your prompt, press play, see what the output is. Write something in your prompt, press play, see what the output is. Write something in your prompt, play it 10 times, see how the outputs change. And you can scale up from there. And that leads me to the other point that we also touched on, which is it's not just for software engineers. It's not, this was AI generated this. It's supposed to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, and an athlete. It should be the subject matter experts should be the prompt engineers. The lawyer should be prompt engineering. The athlete, maybe you're making an AI personal trainer. You probably shouldn't have a random scrawny engineer doing the prompt engineering there, because they're not going to know what workouts or diet you should do. You probably should have an actual personal trainer writing these prompts and reviewing it. And the hard part about this is the systems. You don't want to teach someone to code just to do this. You need to, and that's what we're trying to do at PromptLayer, build systems to let subject matter experts do prompt engineering. And yeah, so this is just like how we do that. So as I said earlier, we have a prompt registry, which is kind of a CMS for prompt templates. So it's really a visual way to come in and say I'm the personal trainer who's doing prompt engineering. I can come in, I can edit the prompt visually, I can open it in a playground, I can try it out. Then when I'm done, I could save it, give it a commit message. And as you can see here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but we have different release tags. So you can tag your version with staging, and then on the other side, you have the engineer who can then pull it down with like we have PromptLayer.prompts.get. So you can pull down the prod version or the dev version. So this kind of decouples the eng process with the prompt engineering process. And to us, that's really important because that's just how you let the person who actually should do prompt engineering do the prompt engineering. And like speed is everything here. I think it's almost more important to have this fast iteration process than it is to create this complex CI/CD scalable workflow, whatever. Like the fast iteration almost makes up for organization a lot of the time. I think if you're moving fast enough, you don't need all these tests, you don't need all these evals, you don't need anything. Just build that iteration loop, let prompts be updated without waiting for eng deploys, and just kind of decouple those processes and organize it. And that's kind of like our main purpose with prompt layer. So yeah, maybe I'll just give you an example that I kind of did myself the other week, and just how we did this vibes-based prompt engineering, or what it looks like. So started with idea. Basically, we have something on our product. Here, let me go back. So right here, in this prompt template, OpenAI has something called OpenAI functions, which you've probably heard of. A bunch of other models now have it too, where you can kind of have the model call a function as a response. So to do that, at least with OpenAI, you have to use this weird JSON schema, which is pretty unintuitive. We had this on our product as a way to do it and got a lot of complaints like, this is weird, like, how do I do this? We have some links. OpenAI doesn't really explain it too well either. It's like it's a standard schema people use. And yeah, so there's I guess an interact. So I wanted to make a better way to do this. So I'm like, oh, I can make a prompt to do this. Seems pretty straightforward. So that's the idea phase. And then I open up Playground. I wrote up some things. I said, you're an AI assistant expert in JSON schema. Let's see how this works. And I specify what the user is going to give you. And then I give it an example. And this works pretty well. But if I want it on prompt layer, it needs to work all the time. So what's the next step? Vibes, right? We're trying it out. I'm giving it a new example. I'm pasting it in, seeing if it works, seeing if the JSON's valid. And I'm getting pretty far doing this. I can get to 80%. What I even did, like one thing I tried was I removed the a few shot example. Then I added 2, then I added 3, see if it overfits. And some things worked, some things don't. This is the scientific method, right? One thing I tried even reversing it. So I went to OpenAI's docs and took all the examples of function calling schema. So as you can see here, this is our like evaluation page. So it's really just batch running of prompts. This output column is all the schemas from the OpenAI docs for function calling. And then I wrote a prompt to reverse it and like give me the description from the schema. And then I actually ran that through my prompt. So I made a synthetic description and ran it through my prompt to generate the schema and saw if it matched this output. In the end, I just made an interactive like form, and I was like, that's probably better than a prompt anyway. So maybe an example that you don't always need AI, but yeah, this was the talk of vibes-based prompt engineering. We're Prompt Layer. Again, check us out at promptlayer.com. We're a platform for prompt engineering, and I'm on Twitter at I'm Jared Z. You can reach me there.
Thanks, Jared. That was awesome. We got a lot of questions, and I'll just mention in the chat, feel free to message everyone with your questions. I see I posted some questions that came in just through asking the host and panelists, because these are great questions. A lot of people probably have the same questions. And then if you have anything that's very specific to your use case, you can message the host and panelists directly, but anything that's more general, we'd love to show for everyone. So let's start, Jared. A question from Matthias on any advice on building automated prompt evaluation. This was before you showed the demo. And I think a lot of folks are trying to track their experimentation and see like which ones are working better, like essentially like version control for their prompt experimentations. What would you recommend?
Yeah, so I think we'll probably have some talks about that. I think after me, that'll go even deeper. I would say when you want to automate it, it's very use case dependent. It's very hard for me to recommend a specific platform. I'd say push it off as long as you can. And then once you can do it, we have a check out our evaluations page. It's a lot of batch running. It's basically like a spreadsheet on steroids. And we have a revamp of it coming out in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, there's gonna be several more talks that are specifically for evaluations. And search and retrieval evaluations. Next question from Paul. Can we fine tune / prompt an LLM to explain other models that the customer builds internally, i.e. why the user should trust a prediction or a classification? And I think this does get into evals and even like new OpenAI explanations. Could be like an interesting way. What are you thinking, Jared?
Yeah, I'm trying to. So are we? Do you think? Okay, I'm just looking to read this
Yeah, so
question.
it's can we fine tune / prompt an LLM to explain other models that the customer builds internally? And Paul, it kind of sounds
I
like
see. I see.
you're trying to get more information. Can we build actually LLMs to explain models that like once you start at a company and you're told to like work with the model and you can't read the code or you have no idea what it does? Like that would be
Right. Yeah. I think you totally do. I think it's actually. I mean, depends how well. As everything is use case dependent, depends how well it works. But I've actually seen at least one team just throw in the feature vector into the LLM and ask it to explain the feature vector. So you yeah, throw the matrix in, throw the output in, and give it the names of each variable and see what it tells you, and then tweak it from there. I think actually I've seen it work pretty well. So yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah. I think everyone's just experimenting and testing at this point. Um, right. Next question we have, Jared, how do you see function calling progress and support by more models? So I think it's just asking
Yeah.
about function calling progress and the support for that.
So yeah, so I think it definitely, as far as I'm aware, started with OpenAI, and it's kind of built. I guess my mental model is that it's very built off of the ChatGPT plugins, although that might or might not be true, but that's what I suspect. Uh, there's been a few models that have had function support recently. I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm not going to say off the top of my head. Maybe Mistral or Gemini or something like that. But I think it's become pretty ubiquitous that function calling is a good thing, is a useful thing for the most part, just to enforce JSON responses from the model. And I think sometimes you need that. I'll give you an example where like function calling is so nice. The other weekend I spent like only like 3 hours building a prompt that just took in our like prompt layer database schema and let me just ask questions on our database in natural language, and then I just hooked it up to our database and it just worked. And it just worked because function calling is a pretty good paradigm to tell it, hey, I want to call this function, and let the model choose when to call the function and when to call it again if it fails and that sort of thing. So I yeah, I think we're gonna see function calling continue.
Awesome. I'm curious, like if people rather have one of your hats than the O'Reilly book, can we make that happen for them?
For sure. Yeah, we could totally make that happen.
We got a
uh,
question from Rich. I think this is going to be like the last one. If we don't get to your questions, just reach out in the Arize community Slack. We'll be kind of answering questions all day, and we'll ping Jared to answer more when he gets the chance. Because we got to get ready for the next talk. Which is just me talking more. But Rich is asking, in terms of what PromptLayer supports, do you support prompt chains and things like MapReduce?
yeah. So yeah, and I guess these pydantic validators and stuff. Yeah, so what we support, so with our CMS is prompt by prompt. So we think you should modularize it. Each prompt should be tracked on its own. When you run them, obviously, you might want to run it in a chain. But stay tuned for our evaluate page, which, like I said, very spreadsheet-like. So you will be able to chain them into each other and run them in batches. So it's less for in production and more for testing and evaluating and stuff like that. And maybe I'll just answer real quick of this systematically test and evaluate prompt instructions for AI chatbots. Uh, simulate the conversation, make a prompt that is the fake user. And that's what I've seen done before, or run it in mass and see just like how the ratios change between runs. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jared. Yeah, there's still more questions coming in. Our team will tag you in these questions in the Arize community Slack, and yeah, Jared's in there, so feel free to interact. Thanks so much, Jared.
Thank you.
Bye.